Hello and welcome to everyone who's taken the time out to join us on this webinar today. My name is Emma Graham and my job here at Essential is to look after the customer base. So I help customers get the most out of their new systems and solutions once the systems are installed and up and running. So just a quick intro from me today to let you know what you can expect to gain from the session. Whether you choose to go ahead with our solution or not, there are some very key considerations when implementing a resource and room booking solution. So we'll be sharing our top 5 with you. We'll also be guiding you through what to look for in a solution and questions that you could be asking the vendors that you're speaking to. We'll also be sharing with you how other customers have done things, what we've learnt through some of the 100 odd projects that we've been involved with. Inefficient meeting room utilisation and labour intensive or disparate processes for organising catering and equipment are very common problems that many customers face. Added to this, many enterprises are seeking to downsize their office space but with the same number of meetings, and often combine this with initiatives such as cloud computing, moving to Office 365 or hot desking. As a result, there's lots of very attractive and very tangible benefits to be gained from implementing room, desk and resource booking solutions. However, what we've discovered over the years is that great looking screens and fancy user interfaces are only part of the overall solution, especially when it comes to the larger organisations. And Luke and Paul will delve into that a bit more later on. So today in this session, we want to be able to provide you with the questions that you need to be asking when speaking to vendors about your solution, so that you can make sure it will scale with your business needs and infrastructure, pass the test of time, and basically get used consistently by everyone to enable both immediate and long-lasting benefits. So just a little about what Essential do. We've actually been in the messaging space for over 20 years, helping customers get in control and get the most out of their email and collaboration systems. Within messaging, we have 3 main areas of focus, and we like to categorise them as manage, migrate and maximise. The first one, manage, is a solution that helps ensure that key systems such as Exchange, SharePoint, Skype for Business are always up and performing. For example, lots of our customers, including outsourced IT service providers, use our help desk console to monitor and report on these systems in real time. The second area, migrate, probably fairly self-explanatory. We're seeing lots of organisations migrate to Office 365, and that means there's lots of changes in their email platform. So our solution and services help the move to be as seamless as possible to the business and the users. It's a solution in the last focus area, Maximise, that we're looking at today, and that is how to build on your investment in skills and Exchange to optimise how you manage your enterprise resources. You may have noticed I'm using the word enterprise a lot. Essential works with many medium to large companies and focuses on delivering enterprise class solutions, expertise and support. Hopefully that will come through during the course of this presentation, but in a nutshell, we feel that the solutions we work with, combined with our deep domain expertise, quality of support and customer focus, are vital in delivering solutions that deliver true value and are also naturally aligned to your current work processes and skills. So that's it from me for now. I'm going to be handing over to Paul Suter and Lucas Marshall, who are 2 of our resource management specialists who will go into things in a lot more detail.
Thanks, Emma. So I'm the Senior Resource Specialist. My name is Paul Suter, and I'm going to talk to you today about some of the security and infrastructure considerations to think about when choosing a solution for your organisation. There are a lot of reasons why customers need a booking system, but what should you look out for and what sort of needs do you need to address and what is the best approach? Well, here's a good list of reasons why keeping your chosen solution close to your existing infrastructure may be a good idea. Often organisations say to us that they want easy adoption. They want easy adoption for users and IT alike, but not sure on the best approach. It is a risk to deliver a project that fails or falls flat on its face. A client of mine in London, actually, very recently had a conversation, and they were saying it was a no-brainer to choose our solution for these guys particularly, because it was linked to a tried and tested platform. And because I'm not having to reinvent the wheel, it was very reassuring. So, excuse me. So, building on your existing infrastructure. So one key thing to get to grips with is understanding how a prospective solution links with Outlook and Exchange or 365. Some resource booking tools, including many cloud-based ones, use add-ins or plugins to synchronize their bookings back to their Microsoft Outlook calendar. As you can probably imagine, this loose connection leaves potential for double bookings, not to mention the potential risk for bookings to go missing. And if there's an outage or a problem with the network, that's going to create even bigger issues. Ideally, you should look for something that builds directly into your 365 or Exchange platform, using your live Outlook calendar as the primary source of data. This means that the room and the desk availability is updated in real time and is always accurate and available to staff regardless of outages or upgrades to your Microsoft environment. Plus, this ultimately leads to the removal of risks such as double bookings, which you know can lead to a lot of frustration, and get rid of all those problems with room squatters. So, we want to build on our infrastructure, like we say, but we don't want to just integrate. Because in addition, if you're already booking appointments in Exchange, how do you migrate existing appointments? It's a good question to ask early on. And when you're going through your due diligence to find your solution, you really want to be emphasizing this point to whoever you talk to. We spoke to a customer the other day. This was a very large enterprise customer. And basically, they were quoted 20 extra days consulting just to migrate existing appointments from the old system into your new system. So make sure that the system you choose can move appointments seamlessly at no or minimal extra cost. Another great advantage about using standard Exchange in 365 is that we can use permissions models set within Exchange. And also, how far can you book it in advance? It's important for systems can draw from the existing functionality within your Microsoft platform. And both these points, booking in advance and the permissions model, are already within the infrastructure, which creates basically less hassle and less cost. So using the right building blocks, does it use the existing infrastructure? This is a question that usually ticks the box of the IT team. But the IT team are usually asked to either source or help the acceptance of a solution. I'm going to pass over to Lucas in a minute, and he'll talk to you a little bit more about who should be involved in a project and go into that in a bit more detail. The important thing is, if you're layering a solution on top of an existing Microsoft infrastructure, it is useful to have the building blocks in place to ensure key activities happen automatically. Such as when staff leave or join the company, we need them to automatically get the rights and to book the appropriate resources within their AD permissions. Make sure the system you're looking for can do this, otherwise your technical team could have a lot of extra work to do. Building on existing infrastructure also resolves the scalability question. Our enterprise customers have specifically wanted a solution they could roll out across the business to give a similar experience across different sites. And we use Exchange and 365 as the basis to enable this approach. A good example of this is one of my clients, Boots, when they implemented a solution for their newly refurbished Exact Suite in London in 2015. They were really pleased on the rollout, but they were worried about scalability. So we're now rolling this out to the same solution out to the manufacturing plant in Nottingham, and it's going really well. However, they also had numerous satellite offices who have not rolled out as yet. And what was key for them was allowing the user base of the satellite offices to book in Outlook and still have London and Nottingham booking in the new system. By doing this, the users were still used to using the same system, and there was no issues across the organisation. So, Emma's talked about enterprise, and we've mentioned enterprise a few times, as she said. But enterprise customers, we always find one of the The biggest concerns they have is about security. It comes up time and time again, and some customers, it is the number one on their requirements to fulfill. Some third-party solutions have a real challenge to integrate with an existing system, i.e. an Exchange or 365 environment, whilst keeping the integrity of the company intellectual property. Mentioned Boots already, but BP, another good example. They were continually under cyber threat, and they probably still are. And it was key for them to make sure that any screen which we used at their offices were tightly secure and maintained easily within their security protocols. They looked at many solutions to manage this, but they basically sourced ours because it was the right fit for them. In fact, I had a chat with their PM in relation to the cyber attacks, and they had 24 attacks in less than 1 hour on one occasion. We were able to work with the digital security team at BP to demonstrate how the Windows screens that we used hooked into Microsoft Exchange and how they can be used and how they can be locked down. We were able to show BP how to secure screens and the connectivity between the servers and their secure VLAN. If you want to know more about the work we've done with BP then obviously more than happy to give us a call anytime. We're happy to have a chat. Basically now we're going on to my last slide before I hand over to Lucas. And something which is coming up with increasing frequency is the desire to further knit security policy in with the booking solution. By this we mean what security models are in place for staff, such as access cards, for example. Can we integrate the access cards with the solution? Ensure you understand what the business needs are in this area when you ask a vendor how best to achieve these goals. We find organisations often want to use existing ID cards to authenticate when they can book a room or resource. And this can be done, but clients are not aware of the work in the background to make this happen. It's usually not an issue as long as you know what you're looking to do and how to do it. But if not assessed properly, it can cause delays and create changes to delivery timescales, for instance. Anyway, thanks for listening to my section. I'm going to pass you over to Lucas now, who's going to go into a little bit more about the sort of softer issues in relation to a project.
Okay, thanks Paul for covering off some of those technical considerations. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and move this forward a little bit to look at some of the more, as Paul mentioned, the softer issues that you're going to face, or the people-related challenges, which in our view are just as important. What we come to realise is that no software, we'd like it to, no software is going to answer all your problems, but ideally a good thing would be for your chosen solution to actually blend in to existing working practices. That's going to help a lot. The more familiar the new solution or process is, the easier the adoption is going to be by your end users, and the higher the chance of success, obviously. It's absolutely key to make a new system easy to use and intuitive. If it's not intuitive, then people aren't going to buy into it, and that is one of our key considerations. What we see all the time is the fact that if people are using Outlook calendaring already, it's going to be a solid starting point for you. If it's a familiar and comfortable environment for them to work with, you're not going to reinvent the wheel, but you're just going to enable more from the environment that they're used to working with already. You don't need to have extensive user training. In fact, a lot of clients we've got would have managed to change by doing things like drop-in sessions, basic user guides on the intranet, and good internal communications, obviously. We're not saying it's going to be really simple, but on the face of it, if it's simple enough to be picked up on day one by your users, with all the hard work and planning and preparation, etc., done behind the scenes, then obviously you're going to be off to a good start once your solution goes live. So, touchscreens. When you're at the beginning of planning your project, these can often be seen as a bit of a luxury item, but when you're thinking about ease of use, they can actually be a really quick win for you. We often speak with companies about touchscreens when they're trying to get better visibility of the space, provide a better corporate image, but importantly, they're also a really good tool for freeing up space. Commonly, we talk to people about touchscreens. They're finding that finding an available meeting space is difficult, or perhaps they're suffering from what we call empty meeting room syndrome. So all the meeting rooms look booked in Outlook or your booking system, but actually you walk down the corridor where the rooms are and half of them are empty. These are the kind of problems that you're facing that you might start to look towards touchscreens, because we can really help with that. They're often put in to coincide with something like a refurbishment or an office move. They're really visible and they're seamless because they're going to link directly back to your Office 365 or Exchange calendar. They're very easy to use and the benefits are very obvious and tangible to your users. What they'll do is they'll provide you with an instant view of the meeting room's availability. They're going to show you its schedule for the day, so they're really great for cutting out the contention of who's actually supposed to be using the room at that time. And they can also be used to book meeting rooms on the fly if you can see there's a gap in the schedule. Use of room screens we've seen this numerous times, can improve utilisation of rooms dramatically, and you can measure it quite easily. The data capture that you get from the system will allow you to actually see how the utilisation of the rooms has changed when you put the screens in. We think the real benefit of having touchscreens, and the touchscreens can be used to manage rooms or desks. The real benefit is the ability to check out of your room early. So if you've got a meeting booked between 12 and 1, you finish by 12:30, you can check out of that room and free up the space for someone else to book via Outlook or directly at the screen. So improving the utilisation of the space. There's also, in regards to checkout, there's also a checkout option which will allow you to cancel a booking automatically if a booking isn't checked into within a predetermined timescale. So if you get a no-show, is basically what I'm trying to say. So this is a really effective approach for tackling a situation where a room's booked but the meeting's not going to take place. This seems to happen everywhere. We see it all the time. A great example of a customer who's really running with that idea is Airbus. They recently refurbished their HQ in Bristol. It's a really impressive new site, looks great, but what they have got, which is a real challenge for them, is 25% less meeting rooms than they had previously. There's still a requirement to house the same amount of meetings, but much fewer meeting rooms. So what they do is they have one of these touchscreens outside of each meeting room, and they have an auto checkout window of 15 minutes. I believe it was 5 minutes at one point, but 15-minute checkout window, meaning that if you've not turned up or checked into a meeting within 15 minutes, then the meeting is cancelled, the space is freed up again to be booked at the screen or via your Outlook calendar. And they really needed that type of functionality to make this this demand for meetings work in the new environment. Okay, so let's move on to another one of those key considerations that we're talking about, and this one is to think beyond the technology. So in other words, the politics you might face. Dealing with internal politics is a really common challenge we see our customers facing. You may have identified the need for a new solution. You may have even looked at solutions and narrowed down to the right option that you want, but there's still a lot of internal hurdles you're going to face. These are often political, as I say, and some people's jobs may change as a result of the changes you're making in the business. FM or reception staff may be concerned about the changes to their role. People have a bit of a fear of change, so what you really need to do is ensure the positive benefits of the change are communicated as early and as often as possible, and that directive comes from the top down as well. That really helps. Genesis Housing are one of my clients. They did a lot of work prior to making the change to flexible working with their staff, just to allow them to see and buy into the benefits of the new environment they were going to be working in. They set up pilot offices, for instance, where people could test hot desking, made the office look different to what it was before and more in line with a flexible working environment, and that really helped people to buy into the changes. It's really important to have a strong steer from management, but also key here to get you buy-in from the key staff and involve them in planning and rollout to avoid any barriers you might face to adoption. We've already talked about ensuring technical background is covered with IT teams and management, and that's what Paul was talking about, but I think this goes as much for key business users as well. We've been deploying these solutions for a long time now, a number of years, and what we've been able to do over the years is adapt our approach to help organisations manage these processes as much as we possibly can. Things like planning workshops are absolutely crucial to the success of a project. This is where you can involve all your key stakeholders in designing the solution that they're going to be using and making decisions. These workshops, I go to these workshops from time to time, and it can be a very cathartic process. You can make a lot of decisions about how you manage rooms and resources that you may not have even thought about. So design services is something which is a key part of this. This helps create the visuals that you might have to go with touchscreens, especially things like wayfinding information, floor plans to help staff and visitors with navigating around the building. And we have more of a collaboration with you have more of a collaboration with our design team to go through that process. Training. Now, we mentioned previously that this is quite easy because it's wrapped around Outlook and it's going to be pretty straightforward for users. But you might know, is your chosen vendor offering you any kind of training for key users or administrators? What makes another sort of ingredient for making a project a success is to have internal product champions, and this is where maybe you can focus on some key people to give them some background and training within the system to help your user population. Consultancy, make sure you cover what you're going to receive in regards to professional services. Don't undercut it. Is the vendor going to work with you from planning through to implementation and beyond that to make sure the system's bedding in, or are they going to expect you to, are they going to cut you loose and expect you to learn how to use the system on your own? It's crucial you get the knowledge transfer in the early stages. So you don't want to have to go back for paid consultancy every time you want to make a change to the system. Obviously, you want to be able to make the changes yourself with some support from your vendor where you need it. So, supporting business change, and again, I'm flagging up with here where there's a key consideration. Your business is going to change; it's inevitable. Organisations are always looking to streamline the way they work and be more efficient, move with the times, etc. So, your chosen solution, whatever it is going to need to be flexible to fit and support future working initiatives. You might not even know what these initiatives are yet, but you may look to add functionality over time. You might have to add different sites coming into this. You might look to book different types of resource. I've got a client I've been talking to recently who are looking to implement pull bikes, so people can sort of cycle around the local area or cycle into work in the morning. And it's really good idea, but these are the kind of things that you might be looking at in the future. You need to be careful not to be too tied in to proprietary systems, things like touchscreens, which kind of almost force you to get the next model of touchscreen from them, and the software and hardware upgrades are all tied into each other. When it comes to replace things like touchscreens, we can help you with this and make sure you've got the flexibility to change without impacting the underlying system. There are going to be changes to the way you might want to work. We see many companies with new ways of working and directives as part of their business plan. This is quite often when people come to speak to us in the first place. Genesis Housing, I mentioned them earlier. They're a really good example. We implemented a new process of booking meeting rooms and desks for them that was in line with their very rigorous 2-year change program that they had to deliver. This was going to involve large-scale movement of staff into new workplaces. It was going to mean a big reduction in office footprint. This led to flexible working for pretty much everybody. And just to top it off, around the same time they decided to migrate to Office 365, which gave them a pretty hectic schedule of changes. We've got a case study for that project. It's worth having a look at, as they did achieve the goals. It was an interesting story. There's various ups and downs in it, but then they now have a much more streamlined estate. They've got much more flexibility for employees. They found that it's led to loads more opportunities for things like collaborative working, and I suppose the key thing is it's led to huge year-on-year cost savings in several areas. Right, what we're going to do now is round all of this up. What you've done is you've listened to Paul and I talk about various technical and non-technical considerations for planning out your own project, to giving you a plan for success. So we've mentioned that we would put it into 5 key considerations, and here they are. Number 1 would be build on your existing infrastructure. Make it easy on yourself. Extend the process you're already using rather than, as we put it before, reinventing the wheel. Number 2 would be ensure that your solution is going to be scalable. You need this for consistency across the whole business. Number 3, and a really important one, is good user experience. This is critical to get people to adopt the new system and buy into the change. Number 4, think beyond the technology. People and processes are just as key as the technical solution that you're implementing. And number 5 would be flexibility and future-proofing. Ensure that the solution you're choosing is going to be in it for the long haul and will be able to change as your business changes. So thank you for listening. I'm going to pass back across to Emma now. Happy to speak to anyone who wants to talk to us after the webinar. Emma will close things off nicely, hopefully. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul and Lucas. Well, we hope you've enjoyed that and found it insightful and useful. Unfortunately, there's no time for questions as we've actually overrun today. However, if you've got any questions, please do feel free to contact us on the email address below, info@essential.co.uk, or you might have our direct email addresses, so feel free to use those. We've also not gone into much detail around the solutions in this session, so if you want to have a chat further about anything you've seen, or you'd like to arrange a demo, do just get in touch. There's some fantastic light bedtime reading for you as well. We'll be sending around a copy of the presentation, but you can also visit our website and look at the case studies, blog posts and related videos that we've got on the subject. Also, do feel free to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We'd love you to get involved. We also do have the resource management customer user group, which is new and for customers. So if you're a customer and you want to get involved, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks once again. That's it from us. Speak to you all soon.